Rendering in Blender really couldn't be easier. There's a very basic way of rendering that I'll show in this video, and then we'll build upon that learning with future videos and show more advanced techniques. But for today, we're going to use the render method that is found up in the top left corner where it says render and render image. But before you do that, we have to change a few settings. Specifically, we need to go over into the properties panel, which usually looks a little something like this, and find the Output Properties tab. This is where we're going to change resolution. Now, we want a 1920 by 1080 image, but we want it at 300 dpi for print, because we may print these later on, and the Photoshop render template that you'll be using for your exercises requires a 300 dpi image. Since Blender doesn't typically output files for print, it doesn't have a separate setting for DPI, so we're going to have to accommodate for that. Setting your resolution X and Y to 8000 by 4500, that will give us the compensation we need on the pixel side to then adjust in Photoshop later on. So go into your Scene tab, set it to 8000 by 4500, and then we can go up to the Render tab and hit Render Image. Doing this created a very large file, of course, and it's slightly off center. Why is that? Well, if you remember, the viewport and the camera show us very different things. Even though my hat is visible in my viewport, my camera isn't quite positioned correctly. To see that, I can click on this camera view and notice that my camera, sure enough, is focused more on the bottom of the hat. Let's correct for that. I can select my camera like any object and simply drag up on the blue Z handle to get the camera into better position. That looks much better. Now I can click Render and Render Image. Looks great. To save our image, we go up to Image, Save As, and I'll save this as Hat 300 just for today's example. I click Save Image, and there it goes. Next, I want to go into Photoshop, and I want to open up that image so that we can correct so that it is truly a 1920 by 1080 image at 300 dpi. Let's go to File, Open. I'm going to open the Hat 300 file. There it goes. And you can see that it's just a very, very large file. Let's go to Image, Image Size. And I'm going to change the resolution to 300 first, which makes it even more enormous for just a moment. And then I'm going to set the width to 1920 by 1080. Click OK. Doing that will get me an image that is 1920 by 1080 at 300 pixels per inch. Click OK and save that image, and it's all ready for your Photoshop render template, which will be introduced shortly. Also required in that render template is the orthographic views. That is, we've got a nice 3/4 view here, but I ask each of you to take pictures of your objects or renders of your objects at the other views, the top and the side and so forth. Now you could move your camera to the top and the side, and that's a little bit cumbersome. But for this exercise, I'm going to allow you to simply click on the X orthographic configuration, go up to View, and choose Viewport Render Image. Doing this will create a viewport render image of the side pretty conveniently and without need to move your camera. Now it doesn't look as beautiful, it's got the grid lines in the camera and so forth, but that's going to be acceptable for this particular demonstration. We can save that, adjust it in Photoshop just like the others, and then go to your top view and so forth to complete the necessary renders for the template.